Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vasel and Sam Healey.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel.
Sam Healey.
Today we're taking a look at Gruff, which you will only know if you look at the top of the box.
Yep. What game is it? It's Tooth. Or Teeth.
I don't know why. I mean, that's a cool box and everything. You know, well, it's kind of gross, actually.
Yes, it is. Fondling the guy's
Gums.
Gums. Massage them.
But it just seems kind of odd. I like to have the name on all four sides of the box. That's just me.
Yeah.
It's cool, but it's not functional.
And very small writing.
Now, the theme of Gruff is apparently you are two Gruff Meisters. What are you?
Shepherds.
You're shepherds, but you're like magical shepherds, and you're fighting enemies. These demons are coming in a gate, and you're fighting them by mutating goats. So you have these goats that you're fighting them. But in a game, you don't actually do that. You fight each other.
Yep.
I'm really confused as to why you're fighting these demons that come in gates. And
maybe you think the other shepherd is like the controller of the portal, and you're destroying all of his minions.
I guess. Honestly, take away shepherd, take away demon, this is Magic the Gathering theme. You're a magic person, and you have these things that are fighting for you.
Yep.
It's that same theming, except it's all goats, although really gross, disgusting goats. Here's how it plays.
Now, the first thing that you're going to do as you begin the game is each person is going to take the shepherds and pick a different shepherd. Each one will have a different shepherd to commandeer their forces. Generally speaking, the shepherds have either 8 or 7 hit points, and then they're going to have a tracker down here. Some of them start with 1 crazy, some of them start with none. Each shepherd has a different special ability, and so that's going to be something that plays into which one you pick. The next thing you would have to do is choose which gruffs are going to make up your front line. Now, when you pick these gruffs, they do not have to be all from the same faction. You can mix and match however you want, but there are sometimes advantages to having the same faction in your front line. Now, the next thing you would do is you would go through each of the decks. For example, with Gaptooth here, he's going to be set up in your front line. Then you're going to take his cards and pick which ones are going to be part of your deck. There are 15 cards here, but you can only have 8 of them in your deck. So you would have to go through and look at the different abilities that are there, how much they're going to cost, because that is a very important thing. The cost, if it's too high, you're going to have a less of a chance to be playing this, whereas the lower cost ones will be easier to play, and you can play them more often. And once you have chosen 8 cards from each of the 3 Gruffs deck, you would shuffle them together, and they become your draw deck. Now, the last thing that you have to do in order to begin play is to take your cards, and everywhere that there is numbers to be tracked, you have to use trackers. And you just simply put the tracker on the card like that, denoting around the number that it starts with. This is the starting position for that, and that's the starting position for that. So it's the one that is colored differently than the rest. We're going to take this time to show you the anatomy of a Gruff card. You have the kind of Gruff that it is, a special ability, what faction he belongs to, and then his fat is his defensive value, his mean is his attack value, and his weird is what's going to give his shepherd crazy whenever he is activated. We randomly determine which person goes first. Each player takes a starting hand of 5 cards. Now, the whole point of Gruff is to knock your opponent's shepherd out of the game completely by having his life drain all the way down to 0. And in order to do that, you're going to have your Gruffs attacking your opponent's Gruffs, trying to knock them out and to create a breach in their front line and be able to attack their shepherd. If you look at turn order here, you can first of all clean up. That's the first thing you do on your turn, which is where you would resolve any attacks that you initiated last turn. Then you would also remove any conditions from play that were just temporary. Then you would draw a card. Then you could activate a Gruff. And then you would be able to play cards from your hand using your level of crazy. And so let's go ahead and take a look at that right now, since Gristle is going to be the one that goes first. All right, so the card here, first of all, it tells you what kind of card it is. So this one is an action. This is a condition, and that is a mutation. And this is the number of crazy that you have to be at in order to play this card. This is the effect of the card. This italicized stuff is just flavor, doesn't do anything for the game. So as you're going through the game, you can only play these cards if you have a level of crazy on your shepherd that allows you to play it. So basically, if I have a 1 crazy, which I don't just yet, I'd be able to play this one, but I wouldn't be able to play any of the other ones because it takes more than 1. But as we go higher, let's say I have a level 5 crazy. As long as I don't go over my 5 level of crazy, I can play any number of cards that I want on my turn during my play cards phase. Then you can also take a tactical action, which is where your Gruffs will either move, attack, grow, or resurrect. In order to move, you would just simply take your Gruff and switch places with a person, a Gruff that is next to it. The attack action is where you will have already activated it, and you'll just move it forward, telling your opponent that this Gruff is attacking that location. The other one is a grow. A grow action simply means that you're going to take one of your attributes and grow it 1 spot forward. And then a resurrect if one of the Gruffs has been knocked out by an attack or some other kind of card effect. Then Gap Tooth, for example, could activate and then perform a tactical action of resurrect, which means this Gruff would then become alive once again. So as we start Gristle's turn, we're going to, first of all, since it is the first player's turn, we skip the cleanup and the draw a card phase, and we go directly to activating a Gruff. We definitely want to activate one of these guys that has weird available so that we can start growing our crazy level. And so we're going to go ahead and activate Gap Tooth, which he has a level 1 weird, which will then raise our crazy to 1. Then we go to our play cards phase, in which we look. We're going to go ahead and forego playing a card right now because none of these really work well for us. Then we're going to go ahead and go to our tactical actions. We're going to go ahead and open up the a can here and just go ahead and attack. Now we're attacking center location, not necessarily Licky, because Licky Hogbox could choose to move Licky out of the way. It just depends on what he wants to do. Now on Hogbox's turn, we're going to first of all clean up. We don't have anything to clean up. Then we draw a card because I'm not the first player. It is important to note here that your hand size does have a limit at 7. At the end of your turn, if you're ever above 7 cards, you do have to discard down to 7. We're going to go ahead and activate Pustule. Now Pustule has a special ability here that says that I get +2 fat when Pustule is activated. So we're going to go ahead and move Pustule's fat up to 2, and then that gives Hogbox 2 crazy because Pustule's weird is at level 2. I don't really have a card right now that does me very much good, so I'm going to forego playing a card from my hand, but I am going to take a tactical action. That tactical action is going to move Pustule into Licky's position here. Then Pustule is going to receive that attack from Gaptooth, but we'll do the best we can there. Alright, so that's the end of my turn. First things first, during the cleanup phase, we do have an attack that has to resolve. So we look at Gaptooth's mean, which is attack value, and we compare that to Pustule's fat, which is a 2. Since the attack value is equal to or greater than the fat value, that will knock Pustule out, like so. But since I was 1 over that 1 extra damage does go through and hit Hogbox. So we would take and move Hogbox's health value down 1 point. So now we would draw a card, which I just did, and now I can activate another Gruff. Notice that a Gruff stays activated until all the other ones have been activated as well. So now this time I'm going to go ahead and activate Old Darby. And Old Darby, since he has a weird of 1, will raise my crazy level here. What's going to happen here is, since we activated Old Darby, we're going to go ahead and move him as my tactical action, which will also get him +1 mean and +1 weird. So we move that up to 2, move that up to 2, and that is his tactical action. On Hogbox's turn, we don't have anything to clean up during the cleanup phase, so we move right to the draw a card phase, and we put that in. We're going to go ahead and activate Gobs. Now this says +1 fat when activated, so we're going to go ahead and move that up 1. But Gobs also gives Hogbox 2 more crazy because he is at weird level 2. All right, and now on the play cards action, we're going to play Septic Spit. Now, since I have a weird crazy level of 4, I can play this one easily at 3. Now, Septic Spit is a global mutation, which says that Gruffs get +1 defense for each mutation attached to it. So this one will get played out here so that we know that it is for everyone involved. When I played this global mutation, Licky gets +1 weird when a mutation is played. So we move that up 1 there, even though Licky is not the active player. And now we get to choose a tactical action. Funk Fiend is going to grow, and that just means we're going to pump that up to a 3. And this is how the game would continue until one of 2 things is the case. First case is all 3 of your opponent's Gruffs are dead, or if your opponent's life is ever down to 0. Either of those 2 conditions are met, the game is over.
Now this is definitely in a very crowded genre of 1 versus 1 with
Card games.
monsters, like it's Mage War, Summoner Wars, Magic the Gathering, etc. This one has some unique things to it. It has that whole weird system, and I don't even mean that. It's actually called... Yeah, no, but I mean, it's what it's called. But it's basically mana.
Yeah.
And you're
Crazy.
playing cards. The game has a good level of customization.
Yeah, the terminology is definitely unique.
Yeah, but I mean, yes, and that's true. But I mean, you get to pick your shepherd, you get to pick the 3 guys, the 3 goats, and then you get to pick the 8 cards from each. So you really have a lot of control on how that fits together.
And there's a lot of replayability in it as far as that's concerned as well, because, I mean, you have 15 different Gruffs, and they each have 15 cards each. I mean,
and you're only using 8 of those.
There's a lot of cycling that's there, so you can play different games probably a lot with this game.
And I'll give them credit. I really, even though it's kind of gross-ish, it's gross just in a Garbage Pail Kids type way, I guess. I do like the artwork. I think the artwork is cool, and each of the goats is pretty distinctive, although there's a couple of the blobular ones look like the other blobular ones.
Yeah, that's true.
But they're pretty distinctive. Maybe it would have been cool had they had different artwork on each card. For each of the goats, 15 cards are the exact same goat.
That's probably a pretty big bump up in price.
That would be, probably. So what did you think of the gameplay?
The gameplay is not bad. At first, when we were first trying to get through it, it seemed very off-kilter because one person was just tearing away at the other, and the other person just didn't have anything they could really do. But then when we started putting a little bit more thought, after we understood how the game played, put a little bit more thought into what Gruffs we chose, and then on top of that, what cards we chose for those Gruffs, then each side was clipping along at a pretty even pace. So I really enjoyed the what we call the mana system of weird, producing, crazy, strange terminology, yes, but I liked the system.
Yeah, Sam mentioned that there's a couple things. First of all, the rule book. The rules of this game are not that complicated, but they should have rewritten the rule book. There's like a really critical rule that every time you activate a goat, that goat's weird is that you're crazy. That's not mentioned in the rules. It's only mentioned in the example game playthrough. Wow. That's crazy. That's a huge thing. And also just a little thing, we shouldn't have had to look up on the internet as many things as we did for this game.
Right.
The rules...
it was immediately straight to effect. I mean, we could not play the game with the rule book as it was written. We had to immediately go to the internet and see if other people were having the same problems. And lo and behold, they were. And there were the clarifications online.
And as Sam mentioned, the game doesn't really... It gives you like an example thing. It says take these and take these cards, but you still don't really... This game has a pretty steep entrance fee to some degree, because you come in and you're like, how am I playing? Okay, because you can't... It's different than Magic. It's different than these other games. You can only attack the person across from you. And if you fall behind in a game, there's a lot of things that you have to learn as time goes by, and which cards you should play early, which ones you should save. Once you know what you're doing, but someone who's played before definitely has a huge advantage over the other person, not just in strategy, but just basically how to play.
Yes, very huge strategy bonus.
I wonder if some of the goats are better than others. Some of them feel better than others. But I agree with Sam. I like the game. I do not think it's without its flaws. Besides the rule book, I think the game suffers from a pretty steep, you fall behind, you stay behind. Now, the game isn't that long, so it's not that big of a deal. But if you start, like, let's say 2 of your goats die, you're just going to probably delay the inevitable unless you manage to pull some cool combo. Yeah. And you better have those combos ready to go and not shoot them too early. Because near the end of the game, if you're low on cards, you really can't do anything.
There are some cards in the game that if you fall behind, they can catch you up pretty handily. I mean, some of the Gruffs that I played had cards that resurrected all of your Gruffs at once. So rather than having to spend 2 turns to resurrect those 2 Gruffs, you can just play 1 card and boom, they're both resurrected. So there's a little bit of a catch-up mechanic, but once your Shepherd starts taking hits, it's pretty hard to stop that, I guess you could say. So yeah, I can see that there is a problem, I guess. I don't think it's as bad as Tom does as far as...
Well, it's more minor. I don't dislike it. I'm just saying it's... I don't know. There's just sometimes you're like, oh,
I think
you can feel like you've lost halfway through.
I think what it boils down to is that there are so many games that populate this genre, and there are so many games that I think do what this game is trying to do better. That doesn't take away necessarily from the merits that this game has. It does have some very innovative, not very, but there are some innovative ideas in here. I just think as a whole, I'd rather play something else.
Okay. I think this game stands on its legs in the fact that it is different. Now, that's going to be problematic if you're coming in, because I'm coming in like, ooh, Magic and ooh, Summoner Wars and all this, and it's like, no, this game is different. Mm-hmm. You got the different actions. You got to decide when to grow their stats. You got to decide to attack, and attacking doesn't actually happen until next turn, so they have a chance to mess with your attack and things. So that's interesting.
Stats. Now that you mentioned stats, that brings up another little... for me.
You don't like the little sliders?
The little trackers. Man, in theory, great idea. In practice, oh my goodness, that slows the game down because, I have to do this. Pick up the card, slide, set it back down. Okay, then I play this. Oh, pick up the card, slide, put it back down. It just clutches the game up a little bit too much. I know it's a very simple thing. It's not difficult to move the slider, but it's just another thing that you have to do. And if you forget to do it, you wonder, did I remember to do that or not? So sliders was, I guess, a good theory, but not good practice.
Yeah, overall, the packaging is interesting. It's a unique, small game, but because it's unique and small, I think it's going to have a unique, small audience.
That could be.
There's going to be people who like this, but I feel that in the long run, I don't know that it offers enough differences for me to play this over the other 2-player Pixel Tactics, Summoner Wars, and all that jazz. As it is, I like it enough, though, and I thought there was some clever things in it, and there's a lot of game in this box.
Yes.
You get a lot for your money, so I'll give it 1 decaying goat tooth up. That actually sounds really negative. That's not meant to be negative.
It is up, I guess. I'm going to give this one gelatinous blob up as well, because it does have its merits. It is a neat little game. I just fear that it's in a genre that's already populated by a lot of really, really good games. So it might get overlooked that way. But if you have a chance to check it out, I would definitely recommend you doing so.
And that's Gruff.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.